I'm Edward Warfield. I'm the publisher of Citybiz, and I'm honored today to interview Eric Derector, who is a partner at Quest Builders Group. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So Quest Builders Group is celebrating its 20 years in business. Can you provide us a history of QBG?
Yeah, sure. So we all came out of a larger general contracting company. We learned a lot over there, but the truth of the matter is we felt that there were a few things that we could do a little bit better. One of those things was to really emphasize principal involvement and relationship building. And I think that's some of the core principles for us, and something that we're proud to continue to carry on as a tradition after 20 years in business.
And so, give us some of the major milestones over the last 20 years.
Yeah, well, major milestones. So I think we started out. We were a small residential company, and I think that interestingly enough, one of the things that helped us with our growth was the economic downturn of 2008. When the firm first started, we were back when we first started back in 2000. We were originally more of a residential contractor, and in 2008 there was a blip on the economic radar that I'm sure everybody remembers, and the residential market really took a downturn. And as a result, we were almost compelled to go back into the commercial marketplace. And revisit some of our older contacts that we had all met when we were working for a larger institution, and it kind of helped propel us to where we are today, because it was really the commercial marketplace and some of those old relationships that we had that led us to where we are today. It's funny because we have clients from back from 2000 and from 2008 that we revisited that are giving us the lion's share of our volume of work today. So it's funny to kind of put a downturn in the economy as a fulcrum and as a milestone, but it's interestingly enough, that was one of our springboards. And from that point, we've grown, and we've grown as a business. We've grown as a family here. We've taken on some additional partners. So that was probably one of the larger milestones for the company, outside of us celebrating our 20th year last year, which was great.
So what has been the impact of COVID-19 on QBG?
So I think COVID's been pretty interesting. I think the biggest thing with any shift in the industry is just acclimating to change. And for us, they shut us down like a switch for a little bit. So we kind of had to adapt on the fly, and we had to implement a whole bunch of technology that would allow us to communicate outside the office. And I think once we established a foundation for that, we were back to the robust group that we were. Just in terms of how it affected us on the job site, I don't think the impact was as great as people probably thought it was. When you peel the proverbial layer back on the onion, you realize that not much on the job sites had really changed. We kind of had to add some additional language to a few of our contracts. We had to provide some additional CDC paperwork to the landlords and the clients. We obviously had to delve into logistics a little bit more, because things like elevators, which are normally complicated in operating buildings, are always something that we have to take into account. Now, how do you get 4 people into an elevator when you're only supposed to have 3? How do you get that material up there? So logistics became a little bit of an interesting thing to get around. But outside of that, everybody was pretty flexible. If there's any good takeaways, I think landlords were a little bit more amenable to what you were allowed to do inside the buildings because of the vacancy rates. So we found that, where we had lost some time because of slowdowns, we were able to make up some of that time because landlords were a little bit more flexible with how you could go about their buildings. But, it was also tough. I mean, look, economically, lots of stuff shut down. We unfortunately did lose some jobs and some solid employees as a result. But, we're starting to see some things come back, and, we're very optimistic about the future of growth here for the construction marketplace.
And how has COVID-19 affected retail projects in the short and long terms?
So retail, I think, is interesting. I think retail had probably taken a little bit of a hit. Even prior to COVID. I think right now, with the job market the way it is, and with just the global shutdown of the hospitality industries and things like that, I think retail was probably the one of the larger ones to be affected. Having said that, we are still seeing people take advantage of some really good opportunities in the marketplace. I think initially when COVID hit, prices did go down, and I think with all the vacant storefronts, I think some well-capitalized retail players were able to take advantage of that. I've also seen some pretty savvy retailers looking to reposition some of their larger properties like malls. The old can't beat 'em, join 'em mentality, whereby I think maybe they turn some of the larger mall space into Amazon distribution centers or something like that. So I think there's always going to be a need for retail. I think it's an extremely robust sector. I think, just right now with the fact that the amount of, traffic that they're seeing has been depleted because of the obvious pandemic, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get themselves back. But I'm extremely bullish on retail in the long haul, and I think there's always going to be a tremendous need for it out there.
And how has COVID-19 radically changed workplace projects for the longer term?
Projects themselves, as I was saying, I think that until everybody's vaccinated, and I think until people are kind of comfortable being around larger groups of people, I think that everybody's going to be conscientious of the environment, and again, with how many people you can fit on a job site. I mean, CDC was actually mandating for a while how many trades you could have on a particular site. So, from the workplace and from the implementation standard, I think that it's, we're going to be slow and steady. But from the projects that we're actually looking to implement ourselves right now, I don't know that there is going to be this monumental shift that everybody is saying is going to happen. I think that for a while it seemed that people were kind of breaking down and deconstructing some of the workplace environments to take away from collaborative space and add all these offices and add all this glass and add all these partitions. And to be honest with you, it kind of all came to a grinding halt. I think that there's definitely a wait and see attitude out there right now. I think that once maybe some of the larger financial institutions and banks start compelling people to come back to the office, I think we're going to see how this is going to be affected. But I don't believe that collaborative workspace and people getting together in offices is ever going away. I think that the change is going to be temporary to some degree. I think that people probably have embraced this work from home lifestyle a little bit, working remotely a little bit, but I think people are generally meant to come down to the office. I think people are much more productive in that light, and I do believe that that type of office environment is very is here to stay for the long run, for sure.
And so you've talked about sort of the short-term changes. What will be the long-term changes in the construction industry?
Yeah, I think that the long-term change in construction is less to do with this pandemic than anything else. I think that there's been a lot of positives that have come out of this, which is how much we can use technology to our advantages on the job sites, and for certain levels of collaboration and coordination. But just from a constructability standpoint, and from an office environment standpoint, I'm not entirely buying into the notion that the office itself, the way that we've come to understand the office environment, is going to go through any major long-term overall global changes. I think maybe square footages will shrink to some degree because of, as I said before, potentially some working remotely. But I see a great need for collaboration. I see a great need for people getting together, and I think once we can, all collectively put this pandemic behind us, the best we can, I think the office environment is pretty much is here to stay.
And so, have there been geographical differences in how the pandemic has affected specific construction projects?
Yeah, I do. I do think so. I think that's actually a great question, and I think it's an interesting one to ponder. I do believe that in the short term, people definitely took great advantage of this ability to work outside of the city. I started seeing some of my colleagues and their families migrate to some more tax-friendly and weather-friendly locations like Texas and Florida, and even out to Big Sky, Montana for a few of them, just because of the ability to do it. And I think that there have been some businesses that have followed suit to provide the need for, once again, retail and infrastructure and some other growing what were secondary markets that are, now really emerging. So I think that there's been a bit of the workforce that has probably followed suit as well. And that's kind of translated to us to a little bit of a reduction in the labor pool. So, where we were, guys were falling off the bench, there were so many people on the bench not working, in the trades during the pandemic, now they've kind of picked up and found other places and kind of followed some of these other growth trends. So if anything, I think geographically, I think you've seen a bit of a shift in the tide in where some of the workers have gone, and as a result, that's kind of translating to some increase in prices here, and some more stability in some of these ancillary marketplaces where it was tough to initially source labor.
And so, what were some of the big challenges that you faced last year?
Well, it was soup to nuts. Last year was interesting. Certainly from a professional perspective, just keeping the family here together was challenging. I think we're so used to constantly being around each other and feeding off of each other, and spending good quality time together. It was hard, and we had to, as I was saying before, we really had to figure out how to implement things from a technology standpoint to keep everybody together. When you peel the construction layers of the onion back, you've got the field, you've got estimating, you've got marketing, you've got accounting, you've got project management, you've got legal, you've got risk management. So I think that there are a lot of tentacles here that people tend to forget about, and we kind of had to pull everybody back in together. So that created a little bit of a challenge for us at first. So we had implemented a series of conference and Zoom calls so we could not just to professionally stay together, but just check in and see how everybody was doing. But we obviously, like everybody else, wrestled with accounts receivable. We wrestled with drumming up new work. For a while we had no idea where our next job was going to come from. So there were a lot of sleepless nights. And busy days, because from a personal standpoint, my kids, like everybody else's, were pounding on my door day and night while I was on my said Zoom conference calls. So it was definitely a unique situation, but we pulled through it. And I think with adversity, you find some interesting things, and it was great because we were able to band together as a group here and get everybody focused and pulling in the same direction. And it's a real testament to everybody here at Quest who really rolled up their sleeves when they probably didn't have to, because they were behind closed doors, but everybody really rolled up their sleeves and dug in and gave not even 110%, but 150%. During the pandemic. So it's just a wonderful testament to the group that we have here. So it was interesting to say the least, but and hopefully we're at the end of it now.
And so, what are the growth plans for QBG?
Well, in terms of growth, we've I felt that we've always been really responsible here. My partners and I have been huge proponents of slow, managed, steady growth. We've always felt that you'll do more on the bottom line if you stay in control of revenues, and I think we've done a good job, a really good job of focusing on projects, not profits. And that's led to a lot of repeat, steady business for us. I'm really proud to call clients friends. We've kind of all grown together. But just in terms of plans, we've been fortunate to hook up with a bunch of national retailers. We are doing work on a national basis here, and we'd like to continue to do so. We're licensed in 13 states. We have a few more coming. So as the world and the country begin to shrink a little bit more, I should say to continue to shrink, based on technology and the way, the way things are trending, we really want to be there to support the growth of our clients and their needs, as we've done over the last 20 years. So, we're looking at expanding, I would say, our geographical, continue to expand our geographical footprint to serve the needs of our clients. I think that's a big thing for us in 2021 and for our next chapter.
And so is there any part of the QBG story that you'd like to tell that we haven't covered?
We're only as good as our weakest link, so to speak, and we really don't have any weak links here. I think I would just be remiss if I didn't say what a wonderful job everybody here does, on a daily basis, coming in, coming out, just, construction's not the easiest profession in the world. I feel like, we're still a little bit of a rock and block institution, and days are long and stressful, and I don't think the gang here gets enough credit for what a great job they do, on a daily basis. And look, for those who don't know it out there, we're just tremendous fans of all of our clients and all of our colleagues and all the people that we cross paths with on a daily basis. I mean, we really try really hard to emphasize a team philosophy and a collaborative approach to things. And we've just been really fortunate to work with some really smart, really talented, really dedicated, really honest and transparent folks over the last 20 years. And we're just we're really excited for the next chapter here, and to continue doing what we're doing and continue growing together and growing our brand and helping our friends, clients, and colleagues expand their brands as well.
Well, Eric, thank you for sharing your story, and we wish you the best of luck in your next chapter.
Well, we really appreciate the time today. It was great speaking with you guys, and hopefully we can do this in person next time.